Hello, my vibe tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective. It's gonna take some time before I remember how to say this, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is when you watch this. How are you today? It's hump day. I'm gonna have to say that again because baby sibling loves that, and I said it now. But oh, I have the third card, which is actually number 4 and 5 from my trip that I took 2 years ago, of cards that I sent myself while I was on my vacation with my dad. And I'm reading these because I just like to see where I was 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. But also I think sometimes it adds a little bit to, to what we're talking about, and hopefully that one does too. We'll see how that one is. It's Self-Care Wednesday, so let me just pull some oracles while we're doing this. You are not what they say you are. I really needed that, especially after the vibe that I had on Monday. The perspective. Sorry, still getting used to this, guys. I even practice this before I go to bed. I practice it in the shower and still cannot get it right. Over a year of using the same thing, it gets a little hard, but you are not what they say you are. There's a lot of mean things that were said, and people are going to be cruel throughout your life, but I think the best thing that you can do is ignore them and move forward. Okay, just ignore them and move forward. Words can initially hurt us, but we choose if we want to keep carrying it. And when people are mean, it's not worth it. Hold on to the good stuff that people say, right? Hold on to the really kind things that people say. Try not to hold on to the mean stuff, because a lot of times that's just people shooting from the cuff. And whether they mean it or not, they're just really kind of trying to hurt you. So, thank you, older sibling. She says that is totally the truth. So just let it go. Your ego is in charge. Your ego is not in charge. Your spirit is. Listen to that instead. That's your intuition. Your ego is that thing in your head that is constantly, you're butting up against it, right? There's a lot of different ways that you can explain ego, but ego is, to me personally, ego is the not so good stuff that you come up with. I just keep focusing in on my hair. I'm sorry about my mop this morning. I did not feel like straightening my hair today. So you get what you get. But anyways, but yeah, your ego is not in charge. Your spirit is, your intuition, your heart, okay, your soul. Let that guide you. Listen to that instead. Be a sponge. Learn. Okay, I'm just flipping pages here, so whatever's coming up is coming up. Be a sponge and learn. Don't sweat the minor details when there's a bigger picture to absorb. Don't sweat the minor details when there's a bigger picture to absorb. I 100% agree with that. And one more. You are so much more than your output. Okay? I want to say that, you really are, everybody has what they call a brand now, whether you're, no matter what you do, even if you just, whatever it is you do in life, you have a brand. Your brand is you. Your brand is your name. Okay? Some people just live their life with it. Some people try to make money from their ideas. But I think this is how I'm going to put this. You are so much more than your output. I know that's backwards, so I don't even know why I bothered showing it to you. You are so much more than the likes you do or do not get from the things that you post and the things that you share, from the things that you put out there. Okay, you are so much more than that. Do not place your value on other people's hashtags. Do not place your value in other people's hands. How you feel about yourself and your value is what you feel about you. And this is perfect. It's a perfect segue to go right into Self-Care Wednesday with. So Self-Care Wednesday, a lot of times I've done tips, a lot of times I've done, what the messages from the mindful messages. But every so often I like to go deeper. Okay? Because self-care isn't just about drinking some peppermint tea when you feel yourself getting cranky in a cranky mood and all that stuff. It's more than that. It's more than that. It's, it's healing. It's healing the things inside of you that need to be healed. And it's not always easy. I will say that. It is not always easy. Whoa, I almost pulled my cup off of the thing. That would have sucked. But you really are more than just your output. And that's what I kind of wanted to focus on today. I'm going to read this first. So let's see. I wrote this from, Minden, Nevada. That's, my dad and I could not remember where we stayed in Nevada when we were hanging out in Lake Tahoe. But we did not stay in Lake Tahoe. We stayed on the other side of the mountain, which we thought was closer because it was actually on the road on our trip. So we just, we were staying next to the highway, so we wouldn't have to wander in and out. But it turns out every day we went to Lake Tahoe, we had to go over the mountain, but which wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was, but when you're going up and down a mountain, it takes a while because, you don't want to fall off the mountain. So I can find, so this is a quote from Jay Lawson. I can finally see that all the terrible parts of my life, the embarrassing parts, the incidents I wanted to pretend never happened, and the things that make me weird and different were actually the most important parts of my life. They were the parts that made me, me. And then I put underneath, this couldn't be more true. Embrace who you are and love yourself. Wow. That kind of goes with the Self-Care Wednesday, right? I'm going to read that one more time. I can finally see that all the terrible parts of my life, the embarrassing parts, the incidents I wanted to pretend never happened, and the things that make me weird and different were actually the most important parts of my life. They were the parts that made me, me. One of the things I'm going to talk about today in self-care is trauma. And I don't mean like the ER kind of trauma. I mean mental trauma. And a lot of people suffer from it on all different levels. Some people don't. If you are not a person who suffers from this, I ask you to keep watching anyways, because you never know who in your circle may actually need you one day. And these are kind of tips and tools for people who have suffered trauma and people who may not have, or maybe you have and you just figured, well, it's not important enough because there are people who are worse off than I am. And I'm putting those in quotes because I don't truly believe that. And what I mean, I don't truly believe that. I believe that if it is important to you, then it is important. And that whatever somebody else is going through, that's their thing. Okay? That's what they're going through. But that doesn't minimize what you feel. That, your feelings are valid. Yesterday, baby sibling and I were talking, and, we were talking about different reasons why the holidays are so hard. And I know I kind of covered this a little bit about my feelings about Christmas right now, but I don't mind. I love watching everyone else celebrate, but it doesn't hit me between the eyes like it used to, when my mom was alive, but or Sissy for that matter. But I told her, I said, I just don't want to complain about it because I know what you're going through is so much harder. I mean, you're raising two boys, you're a widow now. And she just told me, she's all, you know what? She's all, your feelings are still valid and they're still important. And she reminded me of that. So I don't want you to minimize what you're feeling because your feelings are valid. They are important. Okay. And I don't see her on, but she is a major contributor to today's Daily Vibe in the sense that I stole her quote yesterday. We share our lists every day. And her quote was, if you don't face your old pains and traumas and heartbreaks, you'll forever be the victim of your past. If you don't face your old pains and traumas and heartbreaks, you'll forever be the victim of your past. I know a lot of people struggle with facing it. You don't have to tell anybody that you don't want to tell. But I think if you feel like you're struggling, I can't say this enough, guys. seek out professional help, okay? They have apps for that now. They have places you can call. You know, the suicide hotline just isn't about for suicide. It's for people that need an ear. It's just, I think they call it the suicide hotline because the majority of the people that need an ear ASAP are them. They're the ones who are really hanging on by a thread, literally by a lifeline. But if you feel like it's going to tear you apart and break you, I highly recommend therapy. Nobody has to know about it if you don't want them to know about it. Nobody has to know what you went through unless you want them to know. But therapy is a safe place, and they will help you navigate your feelings. When I finally had the courage to face everything I had been through as a child that I held in for years, okay, I'm going to preface this for people who might be new. I am a CSA survivor, which means I am a child sexual abuse survivor. Okay, but I've gone from surviving to thriving. Today is the first day that I actually earmarked, as my first day of thriving. Last night, I let go of that part of myself that hung on to the trauma, that clung on to it like, you know, it was some kind of lifeline. And for me, it wasn't. All it was doing was anchoring me. But that's me. Everybody moves at their own pace. This happened years ago when I was a child. But it was only in the last several years that I began to deal with it. And a lot of times the reason I didn't want to deal with it is because I was groomed so young. My parents never knew. I was groomed so young that I learned how to hide it and hide it effectively. But the problem is when you hide things, it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows inside of you, and it creates this entirely separate, it's almost like cloning yourself. You know, there's like these two personalities of people that are trying to survive and people that are faking it till they make it because they don't want to hurt anyone around them. You know, I'm going to briefly touch on PTSD and CPTSD. And CPTSD is something newer called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, that's not to say that people who have PTSD aren't important too. Yes, they are. But complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it goes farther. It's people who have suffered over a long period of time. POWs, abuse survivors, and domestic violence survivors, human trafficking, you know, apparently indentured servitude is still a thing because that was listed in the descriptions. Slavery is still a thing. It's also tied into human trafficking. Okay, you know, a lot of times we sit here with our electronics and we don't think about things that go on in the rest of this world. But it's a big planet with a lot of people. And there are bad things that are happening. Okay? That's why some of the things that I go through, I'm learning now how to get in and out of it. Because there's so many more things. There's a whole movement right now going on Twitter and in the UK. This man is trying to free his wife who went back to Iran to visit her family 5 years ago. Her child is growing up without her. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right, but it's Nazanin, I believe. I don't know. I hope I got that right. But I have to tell you, one of my tweets I sent out this morning on both of my accounts has been retweeted so many times. And to me, it is the most beautiful thing to see people rallying behind someone. She's a political pawn. Sadly, she truly is a political pawn. And it's not fair to her family. It's not fair to her. And I don't know a lot about it. I'm really kind of new to this game. But there's a possibility that she is going to have CPTSD. Her family is going to have it. Because this has been a 5-year struggle. 5 years, guys. 5 years. Trauma comes in all different shapes and forms. And CPTSD is just one of them. But like I said, if you're a person with PTSD, that doesn't minimize what you're going through, okay? They're just two very different things. They're the same idea. They have the same middle ground, but their foundations are different, in my personal opinion. Not a psychologist, just going by what I know personally, what I've experienced. So, and older sibling says, kind of just backtracking a bit. She said that's what she did for the longest time, thinking others had it so much worse than I did, and I had no reason to complain. She said she did that for the longest time, and okay, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm taking a little bit of credit for reminding her that her feelings are valid. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I am fantastic when it comes to using people's words against them. And I don't mean in a bad way. What I mean is, I told her the same thing once. It's like, well, people have it so much worse than I do. And she's all, but what you're feeling is valid. And I said, well, then how come you don't feel that way? And she just looked at me. Don't use my words against me. What would you do if you were me? Okay, so again, if you don't face your old pains and traumas and heartbreaks, you'll forever be the victim of your past. That may seem harsh, but it is the truth. The only way to get to the other side is you have to feel it to heal it, and you have to go through it to grow through it. And those two things are connected. Going through it to grow through it, and feeling it to heal it. They are so much the same. They walk hand in hand. They are two ideas married to each other. And their child is you. You're the outcome. You're what you choose to do to be better, to feel better, to know that you matter, that you count. No matter what other people are going through around you in your life, even if you've had the same trauma. I did this before. I belong to a community on Twitter where a lot of them, it was their parents who hurt them. Their parents. Okay? Mine wasn't. I was very fortunate in that way. And so I felt a little distant. I felt like, well, maybe mine's not as bad because it wasn't one of my parents. My parents actually helped me without realizing it to get through, because my parents were always building me up. They were always showing me how much I was loved. I think they struggled with trying to figure out why I was the way I was, because I never told a soul. Never told a soul until much, much later. But I was reminded by them that, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters who did it, but the foundation is it happened to all of us. And we're all here to heal together. But I truly do consider myself fortunate that I did and do have the support of my parents. My mom has passed, and it was hard for them when they heard that, because the first thing that runs through their minds is, what could I have done? But there was nothing they could do. How did I not know? Because I was groomed very young and I learned how to hide it. I'm telling you, it's an Oscar-winning performance the way I did it. I mean, I make levity because I have to bring levity to that situation. I have to bring humor to it because it's how I survive. It's how I move forward and not let it anchor me anymore. So one of the things I wanted to share for Self-Care Wednesday is your trauma is still valid even if ... you never told anyone. You can't remember all of it. Not remembering all of it is that's self-protection mode. There's only so much that we can handle at certain times. So if you suddenly remember it in therapy, a good therapist is going to walk you through something. They're not going to suggest things to you. Okay, mine never suggested anything, but then I went in rambling out of the gate. Just like, oh my God, let's just... I was like a fire hose, okay, of just words. Like, I gotta get this out. A fire hose of feelings and emotions and just crap. It was like a water main break of emotions. But a lot of times we can't remember because our trauma, it kind of, a wall comes up and around our thoughts and protects us from it, and so, especially when, for as young as I was, there was a lot of things I didn't remember till I was adult. And that's why I ended up having to go to therapy, because it's like, oh shit, wow, It happened a long time ago. Your trauma is still valid no matter when it happened. It doesn't matter when it happened. If you are still struggling from it and you're still trying to healing it and it still triggers you and it still haunts you, it is still valid. It will always be valid. Even if you tell no one, which I don't suggest. I don't suggest keeping it in, okay? I mean, unless you are a super zen person who knows how to move past it on your own, a lot of times people need help, and that's okay. All right? Your trauma is still valid even if people didn't believe you. That's one of the common things I find when people tell, when people are chatting amongst each other in the Twitter community about how I try, because people will say, well, why didn't you say anything to someone? They're all, well, it was my mom or my dad or whatever. And they didn't believe me. Because nobody ever wants to believe that of somebody, right? And again, I just, you know what, shout out, I'm sorry, I have to do this. Shout out to my parents and all my family and even my friends now, because they helped me go from surviving to thriving. And I'm very fortunate in that. I'm very, very fortunate in that. It doesn't invalidate what I went through, though. It doesn't invalidate my trauma that it, was somebody totally independent of everybody else that I love and care about. But when I've met people now who have had it be so close to home and not be believed, that's more trauma on top of that. Because now you feel lost. Now you feel, there's a news story going on right now about a little boy, 4-year-old, who was in foster care in LA, and he was beaten to within an inch of his life by his foster family. I watched the show Yellowstone, and I like how they cover a lot of things. And in the new season, there's a kid that just, he's an orphan now. And he refuses to go back to foster care because he knows all the bad things that happen there. I don't want to trigger anyone, so I'm not going to say it. But, I'm not saying all foster families are like that. But some of these kids just end up in the wrong place. And, when someone tries to say something, it's not looked into or it's not followed up on. Okay, now I'm not trying to put down the foster care system. I'm not trying to put down social workers, because the majority of them out there are great. But there are children who slip through and then they come out with trauma. And that's what we have to do better at. We have to be better. If you are going to be in a position where a child's life is dependent on you, you need to be on your A game every day. Because they need you. You're their voice. All right? Now, I'm not trying to be on a soapbox about that, because it's not really my position. It's not my job. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. But, there's just bad things happen to people. And it's not just kids, guys. Bad things happen to people who are adults. There's domestic violence. And again, like I said, human trafficking, indentured servitude, slavery, POWs, even that woman, she's kind of a prisoner of a political war, and she's a she's a dual citizen, but she lives in Britain, her husband's British, her child is British, and the whole family's suffering now because she's a pawn. And it's sad. I mean, she's an innocent woman who did nothing wrong, and she's being used as a political pawn. And her husband's actually been on a hunger strike now for 18 days. I can't even imagine that. That is love. That is true love. That is somebody who has been spending all his time trying to free somebody. And like I said, this is going to be traumatic for the entire family. This is stuff they're going to have to get through. And I'm going to do whatever I can on my end to keep posting that stuff to make sure that, it's seen everywhere. Not just in Britain, in the United States. That's why I said I'm not that familiar with everything. It's how I see it here and there, but now it's just like, whoa, I finally read the articles. It's like, holy shit. Okay. We have to start making it our business here. So anyways, your trauma is still valid, even if you are feeling better now. Okay. Even if you're feeling better now, it's okay. Your trauma is still valid, because even if you're feeling better, there may be things that trigger you that you don't realize are triggering you. and that's because you're healing, even if you are better. Your trauma is still valid even if you didn't realize it was traumatic until later on. A lot of people who are groomed very young don't realize that a lot of the stuff that they've experienced is wrong. That was something to recover from. There was a lot of shame that went with that one. Sorry. The struggle is real sometimes. But that's when we remind them it wasn't your fault. You didn't teach you these things. You didn't know. And that's kind of where the separation of personalities come. I wouldn't say that I was one of those who have borderline personality. In fact, CPTSD also covers mental health issues. Now, I have major depressive disorder. I know it's a common terminology, just like a concussion or a fire burn. It has grades. It has different degrees of. Okay, I'm somewhere in the middle bottom because I got better. I used to be way at the other end, but I'm healing and I'm allowing myself to heal. And healing sometimes feels like you are bashing your head against a wall, trying to get through it. And now, as I began to heal, I started wearing a helmet to do it. So it hurt a little less until I was through. And, sometimes you're going to have those scars from getting through that wall. But when you heal, you learn faster. I was kind of cranky this morning, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to have some tea. I'm just going to sit in my room, and I'm just going to relax. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to be calm, because if you just let yourself get angry, it's not going to turn out well, right? It's just going to end up blowing up into something it didn't need to be. So your trauma is still valid even if you know people who have been through worse. We talked about that earlier. Whatever you've been through, it's important. It may not be the same as somebody else. It may not seem like it's as bad as theirs, but it's your trauma and it's valid. And you deserve to heal just like everybody else does. And you deserve to be heard just like everybody else does. Okay? Good morning, baby sibling. Your trauma is still valid even if your life wasn't threatened. My life was never threatened, but it was still trauma. Okay? So somebody doesn't have to be holding a knife to your throat to be trauma. Trauma comes from all kinds of things. Okay? Trauma can be from grief. It can be from losing somebody that you care so much about. But it's still valid. And lastly, your trauma is still valid even if it did not develop into PTSD or CPTSD. Some people are able to have their situations handled ASAP. So even if you are a survivor of any type of abuse, any type of bad situation, even if you are thriving in your mental health, in your mental health battle, because I'm telling you guys, for people like me who have a dinged up mental health, it is a battle every day. Okay? Sometimes the battle's normal. You just go out there, slap each other across the face, and okay, we're done. We'll see you tomorrow. But that's how it feels sometimes. It's just kind of like, okay, today's a good day. Today's a good day. I have an alarm set for every day of the week at a specific time as a mental health check-in for me to make sure that my brain is doing okay. And it works. And now it works because the one I have Monday through Friday actually helps me get ready for the Aloha Perspective. It helps. But that's what I do. I check in with myself daily. And that's part of the battle plan, right? It may not seem like you're battling every day. People that you know who have a dinged up mental health may not seem like they're battling every day. But every day we're checking in with ourselves to make sure we're okay. All right, so I'm going to read this really quick. I have to get going soon because I have a friend who has a birthday today, so I'm going to LA to go visit. Older sibling and I. He's our older brother. He's our big brother. But so I'm going to read this quote again from baby sibling from yesterday, which I love. If you don't face your old pains and traumas and heartbreaks, you'll forever be the victim of your past. You have to go through it. I got it earlier. You have to go through it to grow through it. Or you can also say you have to feel it to heal it. Is it going to hurt? Probably. Is it going to kill you? Hopefully not. And I don't say that as humor either. I mean, hopefully not. That's why I say, if you feel like your life is threatened by you or by anything that you are feeling, please get professional help. They will guide you through it. They will help you through it. And they will help you look back and say, wow, you know what? I did that. If you're not comfortable with the person you're with, keep going until you find someone. Yes, it can be hard to continually have to tell someone your story over and over to get through, you know, that first intake session. But you know what? The more you also talk about it, the more you're putting it out there, and the more you're feeling it and healing it. Okay? Or just put it out to the universe or your higher power or source. Hey, can you find me someone ASAP who's going to be perfect for me? I got lucky right out of the gate. Boom. She was perfect. 6 months of intense therapy, and here I am today. Several years later, still and my ground's not as shaky. There are cracks in my sidewalk, but those cracks mean something to me. They are so important. There are scars on my soul that I would never wish on anybody. But they're my scars. They're my battle wounds. They show me, hey, I survived all this. You know? So I'm going to read through these really quick one more time, and I'm going to post this in the comments. Your trauma is still valid even if you never told anyone. You can't remember all of it. It happened a long time ago. People didn't believe you. You are feeling better now. You didn't realize it was traumatic until later on. You know people who have been through worse. Your life wasn't threatened. It didn't develop into PTSD or CPTSD. Okay, now, this card was amazing too. That was spot on. Totally, I think it hit the nail on the head. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us in our lives are what make us who we are today. My dad told me one time, even my mom told me one time, I wish I could go back in time and change that. And I told them, as much as I would love to say, yes, I wish you could, I tell them no. Because no matter how bad things were, in my particular situation, it made me who I am today. I truly believe that it is part of the foundation of the Aloha Perspective. It's made me who I am. Yes, I'm weird. Yes, I'm different. And I've always embraced that. But I'm coming out of my shell now. And that always sounds weird, okay? Because that's my nickname. But still, anyways, I'm coming out of my shell now. And I'm learning to use my voice. I'm use my gift of writing and of talking. And I'm coming up with things off the top of my head. Because I know out there are people just like me who it's helping. I know just like me, there are people who were struggling, are struggling, or will be struggling once they wrap their head around what has happened. There are triggers, there are scars. And, you know, the triggers become less crazy. That doesn't mean they go away, but they do become less crazy because you learn how to deal with it. And even if all my scars that I have accumulated through the course of that time, of the bad things I went through and just the bad decisions that it led to in my life, because I was so busy protecting myself, I forgot how to live. Even if they all manifested today, they would be the most beautiful things that I could see. Because I healed. And I healed them. And like I said, today is the marker. Today is the marker that I decided, today is the day I start thriving. Yesterday, I left surviving behind. I cut that cord to the part of myself, and I left that anchor. I left that anchor in the sea of misery. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy every day. It doesn't mean I'm always going to be in a good place every day. But what it means is I can look back and I can say, you know what? I survived that. I made it through. And because of that, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to thrive now. And that's exactly what I want for anybody who sees this. That's exactly what I want for people who might see this and say, hey, you know what? I was watching something the other day and great message. Okay, I'm patting myself on the back here, but that's not what I mean. Have you ever watched something and told somebody, I was listening to all this stuff, and you don't necessarily mention what you're watching, but then that person hears you, and you may be talking to somebody who's saying, my friend is telling me all this stuff. I can trust themselves and to feel better. That's my goal, to teach people how to care for themselves and to love themselves. That's what we're here for. That's our purpose in life, is to build each other up, to build one another up, to push each other forward. And my ripple may go a long ways, it may not. But my hope is that it does. It doesn't matter where the rock landed. What matters is how many people it's going to affect down the way. That's what's important. My life purpose is, one of my main life purposes is to make sure that I can heal as many people as I can, that I can reach as many people as I can. And even if it's not even if it's not me they're watching, like I said, even if it's just someone saying, hey, you know what, I was thinking about this, or I saw something and it made me think about this, and blah, blah, blah. Again, that's the ripple effect. That's what we put into this world. And as much as I would love to go back and change what happened to me, if I did, I don't know if I'd be the same person I am today. It's been hell getting to this point. It has been extreme hell getting to this point. Most of it was lack of trust in myself. But that's what I want to teach people. I want you to trust yourself. I want you to believe in yourself. I am sorry for getting emotional, but I think for the first time today, and even maybe in a long time, I'm seeing how far I've come. And that's all I want for everybody else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But that truly is all I want for everybody else. Is to feel like I do right now. To be able to look back and say, I made it. And I survived. I'm so sorry. I know everybody out there who's watching me live right now is saying, don't apologize, don't apologize. But you know what? It's the truth. These aren't sad tears. These are tears of realization that are going to keep pushing me forward, to keep moving forward, and to know that I don't have to survive anymore. That even on a good day, or even on a bad day, I'm still thriving, because I'll remind myself to look back and say, fuck me, I made it that far. I've made it this far, and I'm still alive. I'm still here. My trauma didn't win. I did. And don't be unkind to people who are struggling in their trauma, okay? I'm grateful because I made it out of mine. Not everybody does. And it doesn't mean they're weak. It means they were just hurting so much that maybe their higher power, or maybe even God, said, you know what, it's okay. Come back. Maybe we'll try again later. Okay? A lot of people say that taking your own life is selfish. They're just in so much pain. They're hurting so much. And it's a split decision. 99% of the time, it is such a split decision. When my friend took her own life, she scribbled her note on a receipt. That's how last minute it was. That's how in the moment it was. And the way I like to look at it, I don't care what anybody else's perspective is. Whoever your higher power is, to me, it's just them saying, you know what, come on home. Come on home. And I will take care of you. We'll get you better. So that if you do choose to come back here, you can do it on your terms. And you can do it without all that pain that you're carrying. Okay? So again, I apologize, you guys. But, that hit me between the eyes. But, trust the people around you. If you do have a source, higher power, God, turn to them. Turn to your angels, your spirit guides. if you are not religious, angels are non-denominational. They don't belong to anybody. They belong to us. They are there to help us, but they cannot help you unless you ask. And that's the same with all of your higher powers. They cannot help you unless you ask. Your friends, your family, if you trust somebody with all of your heart, talk to them. Tell them, I don't need you to say anything. I just really need to get this out. Okay? So, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Oh, baby sibling's on. I owe her something, and we need to end this on a high note. Okay? So, happy hump day! Hump day, hump day, hump day. She loves that. I don't know why. But I love doing it. I'm not going to lie. I look forward to doing that every Wednesday. I usually save it for her. I did say it at the beginning, but I will see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Facebook Live under Shelly Marie Lucas. Thank you so much for watching the Aloha Perspective, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.